jumped on late, had to drop off. As long as you have registered for the webinar, which all you have, you will get a link to the recording via email. If you're a LinkedIn member, feel free to join our LinkedIn group, Everbridge Incident Management Professionals. With that being said, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Scott Benoit. Scott Benoit is a Senior Director of Product Management at Everbridge. He comes from us from our acquisition with Nixle in 2014. With Everbridge, he owns the Everbridge Community Engagement Solution and the Nixle solution, and oversees product direction, strategy, and execution. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Scott Benoit. Scott, you may begin.
Great, thanks, Mike. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Mike, can you just confirm you can see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So thanks for the intro. So today, as Mike mentioned, I would like to go through first a slide deck. So run through some kind of high-level concepts around how Nixle operates, the ease of the opt-in system that we've created, show you a few use cases, and then I would like to actually do a live demo. So I will jump into the actual system, both on the website, and then at the very end I'll be demoing the new mobile app that we've recently released. So let me just make this full screen. All right. So at a very high level, Nixle is part of the Everbridge family, as Mike mentioned. Nixle was acquired in 2014. Nixle, our primary user base is public safety. So we have, I think, close to 8,000 agencies across the US now, all 50 states. They use Nixle primarily for everyday types of notification. Nixle does allow agencies to send critical alerts, but a vast majority of Nixle messages are for things such as local crime, road closures, water main breaks, those types of everyday inconveniences that agencies want to reach out to their residents about. Now again, there is the ability to send those critical alerts, but you know, we consider community engagement to be more of a tool to kind of engage with your residents on a daily or even weekly basis, right? So those alerts, they will come, but the idea is, you know, as you're actually out there interacting with your residents on a frequent basis, as you create more content and you reach out more often, what you will see is that more and more people will opt into your system, right? So a system that gets opt-ins is critically important. When you publish your message, residents will receive that, whether it be by SMS, email, maybe they just find your content on the web. Once they see that information, they're obviously more likely to share it across their various social networks. More people will see your message, more people will seek out the source of the information and opt in to receive your information. So, you know, it's interesting. Every time an agency publishes, this cycle spins. More residents will see your information, they'll share it, more opt-ins will show up. And again, this is for the everyday type of notifications. Now you can imagine when that emergency does occur, when there is a forest fire or an earthquake, whatever it is, you will have an opt-in base ready to receive your messages, right? So we really espouse the concept of frequent messaging will drive adoption. And again, we've seen a lot of great results with this model. So again, over 9,000 agencies use Everbridge and Nixle combined. So yeah, so the first set of dots was Everbridge customer base. The second set of dots that just layered on top of that is Nixle. So we do cover large portions of the country. And this is really critical when we talk about our opt-in strategy, which I'll get to now. So again, one of the challenges with having an emergency notification system is getting people to opt in, right? Yes, you can go out and buy landline data, you can buy white page, yellow page data, but the number of contacts in those databases decreases quarter over quarter, year over year. People just don't have landlines any longer, and it's increasingly more prevalent, right? I see this, this is their number one concern. How do I get people into the system? You know, they notice that the amount of contacts in these databases are decreasing every time they go to purchase a list. So what we've tried to do is make the opt-in methods for your residents extremely simple. And there's really two main ways that we allow residents to opt into the system. One of those is over SMS, and the other is over the web, right? So the first method, and the one that is by far the most popular method, is residents can text their zip code to 888-777. So the normal SMS function on a user's smartphone, simply by texting their zip code to 888-777, they will be opting in to all sorts of information for that zip code. So let's take my zip code for an example. I live in 91016. That's in Southern California, and I actually have 3 local municipal agencies that are using Nixle, right? I have the Monrovia Police Department, the Fire Department, and then there's actually a neighboring police department that has jurisdiction over a part of this zip code, right? So I have three agencies in my area. Now, by texting 91016 to 888-777, I'm opting into all of these agencies. I'm opting into all agencies that can publish to this zip code, right? It's a powerful concept because I'm not opting into one agency, right? Because I would have to seek out every agency that's using Nixle and opt into them individually. That's too difficult for a user. It shouldn't have to be that difficult. So what we've done is, once a user texts a zip code, they will get information from all of these agencies. Now you can imagine if there was a county level agency, they could start using Nixle tomorrow, and they would immediately be able to access everybody who's in this zip code as well. So this is what we call the network effect. It's basically an opt-in is shared across the Nixle platform for all agencies. And again, very powerful concept when you consider, let's say for this zip code, 91016, 1,000 users have opted in. And these 4 agencies are now publishing messages to these 1,000 users. Now let's say a 5th and a 6th agency start using the platform tomorrow. They will immediately have access to this 1,000 users, right? So not like Twitter or Facebook where you start with 0 followers and have to get out there and really try and get people to opt in. The opt-in and the shared network is inherent to the Nixle system, right? So I would encourage anyone here interested in learning more about Nixle to actually reach out to an account executive and find out how many opt-ins are in your community. You might be surprised. You might have thousands, tens of thousands of people already there waiting to receive your messages. The other opt-in method, so this is very similar to the keyword opt-in method, although when you set up what we call an event group, right? So let's say you have a local festival coming up. In this case, let's say you have a jazz festival coming up in the park. You're going to have road closures. You're going to have people coming in from out of town, maybe out of state. Let's say you want a way for people to opt into a group specific to the event, right? So this is not an entire zip code worth of information. This is information related to a very specific event. So you can create your group. You can create a mobile keyword. In this case, let's say it's Jazz Festival. Now, anybody who texts Jazz Festival to 888-777 would be signed up to receive your notifications. Now we can actually try this in real time. If everyone has their phones handy, what I would ask you to do is pull out the messaging app, so just the default messaging app where you would send text notifications from. Now construct a new message. In the to field, TO, enter 888-777. So this would be the phone number. So 888-777 is the dedicated, what we call short code. It essentially acts as a phone number. And in the body of the message, enter the word webinar. It is not case sensitive, uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter. And send that keyword to 888-777. Now, once you do that, you're going to receive 2 messages back, and I'll actually talk about those messages in a little bit. But the idea here is you have just signed up for a group. You have signed up for a group that I set up just prior to this demonstration. Now imagine you had a festival coming up. Let's go back to the festival example. Let's say you have that coming up in a few weeks, and you want a very easy way to get people into that group to communicate all of those traffic detours. You know, maybe there's going to be a change of venue if there's a weather event. Whatever the situation is, you will have that group of users ready to receive your messages. And you can imagine the use cases here are plentiful. So let's say you have local transportation and you want people to stay up to date on construction to your metro line. Maybe there's a gathering. These are some DC examples, but any local festival, any time that people are kind of meeting up and there's a crowd of people, police week, if there's some sort of local athletic event, whatever it is, a keyword is a great way to get people to opt in and for you to communicate with that group of users during the event. So let's just look at a few examples of some types of messages that our agencies send through the Nixle platform. Now, as I mentioned, agencies can send what we call alerts. So alerts are the highest priority Nixle messages. They can, of course, send those. In this case, there was a missing child in Santa Cruz, California. Now, as we all know, Amber Alerts have very stringent guidelines, you know, what exactly constitutes an Amber Alert. So a lot of times, if a missing child situation does not meet the Amber Alert criteria, Nixle agencies will send a missing child alert. Now, I'm happy to say that Nixle has contributed to many missing children being found, which is great. So this is a great use of the alert priority type. If there's a missing child, if there's a missing elderly resident with Alzheimer's, a great use of the alert. And what will happen is you can send this message. What frequently happens is residents will receive that message on their phone and they'll say, hey, I just saw that person a few blocks away. They'll call the local authorities and locate the missing individual. Another example here, there is maybe there's a gas leak at a certain location. Another one here, a power outage at an intersection, repair crews on the scene. So you can imagine, let's say residents are on their way home from work, they've opted into Nixle, maybe this is part of their normal commute. How great is it to receive a message telling them that, hey, there might be a detour, or, you know, additional traffic information can be found on the web. And then you'll notice here it says community, so this is our kind of low priority message. If there's, you know, local meetups or some other local events that are coming up that you want to communicate, community is the label that you would apply to those messages. So let's actually talk about a few case studies. Let's dig into a few recent examples. One of which, oops, let me just fix my phone. One of which in late 2015, so almost a year ago, the Pope visited the Philadelphia region. You can imagine there was an influx of residents from out of town, out of state, logistical challenge for local authorities. They were expecting 1.5 million visitors over the course of a long weekend. You'll see here there were 71 local, state, and federal agencies, so a huge effort to coordinate and make sure that everybody, all of the visitors, could receive timely information. There were first aid tents scattered around the city. So there's a lot of information that the city obviously needed to communicate to the attendees. So we worked with the city, we came up with a plan, and this is the typical plan that we recommend. But before, during, and after the event, there are certain tactics you can take to really optimize, number one, how many people opt into your campaign. Number two, how do you send effective messaging? And then number three, once a resident has opted into the event and the event is coming to an end, how do you transfer that user over into another group so that they continue receiving information from your agency, right? You don't want to lose that opt-in after the event ends, so we have a way to kind of move that user into a new group. So prior to the event, we worked with the city and we came up with the keyword papal visit. The city did a great job getting the word out. They had local press releases. They had a lot of on social media, both Facebook and Twitter, asking residents to opt in to papal visit. They had printed literature scattered around the city. They actually reached out to neighboring Nixle agencies who published that call to action to their opt-ins, right? Text papal visit to 888-777. And over the course of 7 days, they got 11,500 opt-ins. So I think it's particularly impressive when you compare the number of users that they had on Facebook and Twitter over the previous 7 years, right? So in the course of a few days, they got 11,500 opt-ins with community engagement. In 7 years, it took them, that long to get 15,000 users on Twitter. And again, that kind of speaks to, I think, just the power of the opt-in channel. It's very, very easy for residents to opt in. And during the event, right? So now that you have these users, what do you send them? Right? So they sent a lot of, and this is just a sample of some of the messages, but there's information on the Pope's route through the city, street closures, parking restrictions. There were actually jumbotrons set up, and the city wanted to let the residents know where those were located. There was weather updates, information on how to easily move throughout the airport as you're leaving the city, right? So a lot of great information went out. And then very great tactic here. Once the event is winding down, right, the Pope is about to leave the city, the city sent a text message to all of those opt-ins asking them to reply with their zip code. And so this is all over SMS. You'll notice here there is a call to action to get important safety alerts from your city. Please reply with your zip code. The user would reply with their zip code, and now they've just opted into that broader set of information. They've opted into all of the agencies that service that zip code. Now they can stay connected to all of the public safety information that's going on in the zip code. And the next case study, so this comes from October 6th, just a few weeks ago in Florida. So Florida is using community engagement. They are using the mobile keywords, the event keywords. And this was a huge, huge event, as you can imagine, for the entire state of Florida. So there was a point in time when the when the hurricane moved away from Haiti, was heading towards the southern coast of Florida. And the Governor Scott, did a full media blitz to get the word out on FL Prepares. This was the keyword that he he had on CNN. All of the print publications picked it up. All of the local media picked it up. And the call to action went out, text FL prepares to 888-777. And the results were really staggering. In the course of just about 18 hours, they received 362,000 opt-ins. So you'll see here, so this is 10/6, right? So first thing in the morning, they started publicizing as people were waking up, and the hurricane, was approaching. You'll see that the curve here is just really incredible. So within 24 hours, they had reached over 350,000 opt-ins, and then into 10/7, October 7th, they were up to around 362,000. And just some high-level stats here. As I mentioned, 362,000 opt-ins. In the course of a week, they sent almost 6 million text messages, and they were also driving a lot of web traffic. So a lot of people were actually looking at the messages that they were sending and clicking through from the text messages to view the actual web messages. So for anyone who opted into that keyword, you'll see that you can actually include links in those text messages that users can click on to view a broader set of information. So now with that, I'd actually like to jump over, let me make sure, I'd like to jump over to the web interface and just kind of walk through the Nixle system at a very high level. So I just logged in. So this is the primary interface. You'll see there are some quick links here so I can jump to key areas of the system. There's a recent activity feed. So if you're an admin of the system, you can see what other users are doing. And what I'll do first is jump over to the Groups tab. So again, Nixle is group-based. So you have the concept of the Nixle wire. So this is the default group of users who are opting into zip codes, right? So that's your main group. But then you can create the custom groups. So this is the group that I created today, Nixle webinar. It looks like we had 15 users opt in, which is great since there are a lot of us here on the call. So we have 15 opt-ins to this group. So that's great. So from the message center, this is where I would construct a new message. You'll notice as I scroll down, this is where I would select the priority of the message. Is it high, is it medium, or low? We call that alert, advisory, and community. So let's say this is a medium priority message. I can go down, I can enter a text message. I can actually translate this to Spanish if I'd like. And if I do that, you'll notice this second tab opens up. And I'll have this. I'm actually going to dismiss this for the purpose of the demo. Nixle also allows you to receive anonymous tips from your residents. So if this message, let's say your agency is looking for a wanted suspect, you could actually click here to request a tip. You'll notice that we append the message with the words reply with tip. Now imagine this from a resident's perspective. They receive a text message saying, wanted suspects, reply with tip if you've seen this person. They can directly reply to that text message with their tip information, and that whole communication will be anonymous. So very cool functionality there. So as you scroll down, users can enter email and web message, so they can put in the subject, they can put in the body, they can style this any way they want. So we have full HTML styling. You can include attachments. You can include what we call an incident location. So if this is occurring at a very specific place in your community, you can actually include the address. The message will then come through with a pin on a map, letting your users know exactly where that message, where this event is occurring. You can include contact information. So if there's somebody that needs to be contacted specifically in regards to this notification, you could enter that user's information here. And as you scroll down, this is where you would select which group is going to receive the message. So this is where I would select the Nixle webinar group. If you wanted to filter this further, you can actually apply geographic filtering. So you can, I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit, but we have a point and radius tool. So you can draw a point, you can enter an address and say, you know what, I want everyone within a quarter mile to receive this. Or you can zoom out a little bit more, now it's a half mile. Or you can actually enter a city or town name here. You can target that way as well. Schedule delivery, you can either send it now, schedule for the future. And then down here you'll notice you can actually set up and connect your Twitter and Facebook accounts and also reach those channels with this notification, right? So simply by filling out this form, you can reach SMS, email, Twitter, Facebook. We also have a partnership with Google, whereby if you select alert, your message will go to their public alerting channel. You can also publish to iPause from this form. This demo account is not provisioned with iPause. The option is here, but it's not selectable since my account is not set up. You can send out voice messages, right? So from this one form, you can target all of these channels. We make it very easy to send to all of those channels directly from here. So what I'd like to do is I'm not going to actually initiate this message from the web. What I'd like to do is make sure my video recording is working here. So what I've done now is I've opened up the new mobile publishing app called Everbridge that we introduced a few months ago in August on iOS. And actually tomorrow we have a release coming out where this app will be available on Android. So this is called Everbridge. The idea here is from a mobile application, you can very easily send messages to your groups. Right, so after logging in, you'll notice I have two options, two main options. One is an advanced message and one is a quick message. So let me start with quick message. Here, if I select that, you'll notice I have an entry field. I enter a text message here and it'll show you exactly what's going to happen. You are sending a medium priority message to your Nixle wire, right? So this is your group of users who have opted into a zip code, and you're going to send it via SMS. Right? So this is by far the most popular publishing option for agencies. As they're quickly creating their messages, it's a medium priority. They want to send to their Nixle wire via SMS. Right? So we made it extremely easy for them to author that message here. So you can fill out the information here, click send, and it's off. I'm actually going to jump back and show you the advanced message flow. So let me select advanced message. So you'll notice I have a few more options here. Alert, advisory. So as I'm kind of toggling through these options up here, you'll notice that my selections below will change. So start again, alert, advisory, community. So alert, SMS, and email is required, right? We want a full set of information to reach residents if it is an alert. Advisory, I'm actually going to do the advisory for the purposes of this demo. But let's say I want to send an email, SMS, and Facebook. So I can do that. I'm actually going to deselect these two and just send it via SMS. So we'll say, thanks for attending. Next. So this is where I would target my groups. Nixle webinar group, preview, send. So it was just that easy, right? So now let's kind of step back and look at this from a resident's perspective. A resident opted into a keyword, In this case, it was webinar, but let's say it was for a jazz festival or something that's coming up. Now, let's say your agency has an urgent weather notice to send to everybody that's attending that jazz festival. You would pull out application, very easily enter that text message, target that jazz festival group, and send your message, right? So this is really kind of an end-to-end demo, hopefully showing how easy it is for the resident to opt in, and then how easy it is for you to actually message that group of contacts. So let me jump back into the app and just show you. So along the bottom, you'll see there are a few options: public messages, private messages, and settings. I'll quickly talk about private messages. So Nixle, as I mentioned, is really set up to message groups of contacts. You can also set up private groups. So if you want to communicate internally, maybe you have a SWAT team or an operations team or some other team where you want to be able to quickly communicate via SMS with those users, you can easily set up groups for private purposes as well. Now the difference is private groups don't have web pages. You don't want to broadcast your messages to a public forum, obviously. So there are a few differences here. And the last thing I'll mention is if you come on board and you are the admin for multiple agencies on Nixle, you can very easily toggle between the agencies. So you can kind of go to settings, click switch agencies, and really kind of determine which agency you want to send your message on behalf of. And I think with that, I think, Mike, that concludes the demo portion. I'm happy to open it up to questions.
Thank you, Scott. So yeah, we're gonna move over to the question section. We're a little over in time, so I'm gonna go through just a couple of them. But what I do promise you guys is we'll make sure that your questions are answered via email or via a quick phone call from one of the product specialists. So you will be followed up with. Just for the sake of time, we'll go through a couple of them though now. So Scott, a couple of questions that came out was, are there any plans or can Nixle be leveraged, can you send messages in other languages, specifically Spanish?
Yes, you can send messages in Spanish. As I kind of showed in the interface, you can have the system translate those messages. We do leverage Google Translate, and a resident would have to opt in to receive Spanish. Since this is opt-in based, user opts in, they would then have to indicate that they want to receive messages in Spanish, but then you could, in the interface, translate your message and send it off in Spanish, yes.
Okay. And the second, another question we have from Jack, he wants to know, he saw that you can send private messages, so would you be able to leverage Nixle like other systems for internal communications, meaning between, you know, response teams?
You can, absolutely. So if you set up a private group, and it is kind of a robust feature, so I'd encourage reaching out and getting a full demo. But you can send SMS to private group members. Those members can reply, and then you'll basically see all of the replies in the Nixle system. So it is a good way to kind of reach out to those response teams.
Perfect. And just for the sake of time, one last question, Scott. I know you had mentioned this, but we got two questions that came in. Just what they wanted to hear. Just this, when is the date for the release of the Android version of the app?
So the release is tomorrow, so it will probably hit the App Store on Thursday, the 27th. So in 2 days.
Excellent. Excellent. Awesome. So with that being said, I know we're getting a couple questions that are coming through. We'll definitely follow up. So if you do have questions, keep typing them in. We will follow up, or will rather have a product specialist follow up. If you are a Nixle or Everbridge customer, we'll have your account manager follow up. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today. I want to thank you, Scott, again for hosting a great session. And stay tuned for the slides and the recording. They will be sent to you within a few days. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions you'd like to, or if you'd like a one-on-one demo sooner rather than later, by all means go to either the Everbridge site or the Nixle.com and go to the Request Demo tab and fill out the form, and we'll have a product specialist reach out to you shortly. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.